I'm Dyonne. I'm a healer from Holland. And today I'm here with part of my posse. No, today I'm here with Miriam. She's a philosopher from Sweden, and with Rachel, a coach consultant from the US. And we can never stop talking about our ever passionate topic, personal development. And sorry, guys, for giggling. But yeah, today we want to talk about freedom and freedom of choice, freedom of speech, and the sense of freedom. What is freedom altogether? And Miriam already came in very excited because she want to read us something. And so Miriam, the word is to you.
Yes, this is Hannah Arendt's The Freedom to be Free.
I love Hannah Arendt.
Yeah, and what a cool name for a book, right? So she
Yes.
says, okay, to put it another way, if one wants to prevent humans from acting in freedom, they must be prevented from thinking, willing, and producing, because all of these activities imply action. Okay, and then, well, thinking, willing, and producing, because all of these activities imply action. Thinking, willing, and producing. And then on the next page, he also says that the activity of reasoning itself, that is where freedom arises. Reasoning creates a space in which freedom is real. Don't you just love that? I have like a million connections to everything at the moment in my head. Yeah. Yes.
I was just drawing a flow chart over here.
Yeah, want to show?
That's freedom of choice.
Well, I don't want to butt in.
No, go ahead.
But okay, so freedom, autonomy, choice, being and doing, relationship to the existential, responsibility for being human.
Responsibility for being human. Yeah. Taking responsibility for being human. How do you do that? And what does it mean to be a human? Like, what part of being a human? Do you
mean the first thing that comes up for me, there's so much I want to say as well, but responsibility for being human is also that what you say is in congruence with what you mean and with what you do. There's a responsibility for showing up in life, that your actions are congruent with the promises you make, and that people can hold you accountable for things. That's what accountability, i.e. responsibility, is all about.
Yes.
If you ask me.
Yeah, I have another Arendt quote, and she says that freedom means being able to do what one ought to will, you know? So it's a kind of the freedom to be moral, and to actually act on your morals, you know? Doesn't this make free? I'm just like, freedom. Where is the freedom in our society right now? You know? Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
How do we know what we ought to will, though? Like, how do we know that? How do we form an ethics? And this is where that reasoning comes in. Reasoning that forms a space where freedom is real. That's what it said. Freedom is real where reasoning is, where reasoning forms a space. So what is reasoning then? Wow. Yeah, I know.
Autonomy, right? Like true autonomy would be the ability to, we were speaking a little bit earlier, right? True autonomy being the connection of self with self. You know, so if there's this more like horizontal axis of relational existence and the existential reality of ourself in relation with others, if we don't ever come back in to explore that vertical axis of self with the cosmos and the earth and that sort of fractal reality of interconnection, we've not maybe done the work of sort of reclaiming our autonomy, or to organize our principles, our virtues, and I think what's quite fascinating about this is you can see this in the theory of positive disintegration. Jabrowski talks about a horizontal axis and he talks about a vertical axis, and in level 3 you have this sort of vertical reorganization. It's no coincidence for me that this aligns with like the human spine, right? And the midline. But I really feel like until we reclaim that autonomy in a self-generated way where we reorganize our philosophies, our principles, our ethics, our morals, whatever you want to call them, we can't meet the world in true autonomy in that relational axis. Does
Definitely.
that resonate?
Yeah, it makes 100% sense, because the most important relationship to develop is with the self first. What you say, your value system, I would call it, and your standards, and that should be first in alignment with what's up there, with the universe and with Earth. And you can only relate in a healthy way to another human being, the horizontal line, as you say, when all for yourself is clear. And we talked in earlier conversations that I think until you're 18, your personal development is obviously related to a family system, and then later on in school and university or college or whatever place you go for professional development and college and whatever. But then later on, when your inner system is supposed to be developed, only then will you be able to be as autonomous enough, most probably, hopefully, to relate to another human being on the horizontal level, because otherwise you would only have the unhealthy relationships. And also what I sent to both of you about Alan Watts, all the decisions you will make will not come from a place of freedom, because they are all fueled by either the fear for loss or the pain, or because you feel driven like, oh, okay, I have to please someone, or maybe I lose them if I don't do that or that. And then you'll be stuck in your arrest. So your arrested development makes you move in unhealthy ways to other people.
Yeah.
And Rachel, I believe that's what you're saying. So the Dabrowski line or the spine, that's what they also say. You have to create a backbone. Oh, that person doesn't have a backbone. You need to have a backbone.
Yeah.
And then
It's all right there. Yeah.
Autonomy. Yeah.
Autonomy.
Yeah.
What do you think
What
about
else
that,
did you have?
Miriam?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sure.
I was thinking about the word autonomy, and I was thinking about my friend who says that autonomy is the outward expression, and integrity is the inward experience of the same thing. So again, autonomy is like a relational thing. Exactly, it's relational to other things, but it's the self to self relation is like the self with small s to the self with capital S, right?
Capital S, yeah.
So that's the relation. Again, we're talking about this fabulous thing about the unity and the separateness, and how we can only become ourselves when we see that both are true. So this is the experience of integrated autonomy, to know that I am one and different and the same, at the same time. Yeah. But then I was thinking about, from the Alan Watts text that we just read, we can put it in the text in the.
I will do the brain picking in there later. Yeah.
So he said, choice is not freedom, because choice is motivated by, I'm paraphrasing, choice is motivated by either pleasure or pain, and you can't, and he says, you can't plan to be happy, you can't plan to do only pleasurable things, but you can plan to exist, because existence in itself is neither pleasure nor pain. And this planning to exist, that feels like that is freedom, I plan to be here regardless of the pleasure or the pain, and this will require, what it requires from me is the spontaneity of being being me now, You see what I'm saying? And about spontaneity. Yeah. Sorry, I'm like,
yes.
I want to say everything at once.
No, but I see. Sorry. Yeah.
So my mom says about spontaneity, she says it takes years to become spontaneous. So this is another thing about freedom.
Yeah, but that's another thing. But I believe what you say with choice, there are two things. The way, what I mean with choice is that you don't feel limited by someone else's expectations. So you can choose to fully exist, like I want to be here with the both of you. I make something concrete again because it's tangible for viewers. So I want to show up here despite what's going on in the world. That's my choice to be here. For me, that's a freedom of choice. Whereas what I also believe you say is yes, I also choose to exist, but when I'm existing now, and what Alan Watts means with the pleasure and the pain is the same as what the Buddhists say. If you believe that you can escape from a moment, like by running away or gravitating towards, like the never-ending, the samsara or something, what they call it, like, I desire, so I go for that, or I'm adverse, or I don't like it, I'm disgusted, I want to move away. The never-ending tug and toe between that's where the suffering happens. And that's actually what Alan Watts also says, that if you want to, if something is either you want to, pain is something you want to move away from, and the joy is something you want more from and towards, there is where the suffering happens. So then you're actually stuck. It's not freedom, it's being stuck. So Miriam, what you say is the existing is necessary, but I think the choice, I forgot how Alan Watts says that then, but like for me wanting to be here, I feel an urge or a necessity. It's not per se because okay, it has a joyous aspect to it, but I want to be here for the bigger meaning, for a purpose, and that's a choice I make, as I believe it, coming from existence, or emphasizing my existence. Does that make any sense, Rachel?
It makes so much sense, because I think what Watts, there's if we look at what Watts is saying there, but we actually maybe look at a more expanded view of it, there's the idea of choice on that vertical axis, and there's the idea of choice on the relational and horizontal axis. So if I'm operating from a place of that horizontal relational axis without some sort of connection to my autonomy or my existential sovereign self, then that choice may be in the unconscious pursuit of pleasure or resisting pain. But if I go into that space, I have a disintegration. I mean, it's so interesting to see in certain cultures, right? Teenagers growing up, there's this rite of passage around differentiation, and it's actually encouraged for them to push back against culture, push back against elders, to really have that opportunity to disintegrate and reorganize on that vertical plane. Whereas in a lot of other cultures, right, we conformity and consistency and consumption and all that stuff. All that to say, I went a little off here, but choice on this existential level feels very different. And that the examination of choice being a markedly different thing, once you have that sort of, I'm not in the pursuit of pleasure or pain, I can reconcile existence and being and doing, and now I can navigate the world and make these choices without this sort of like unconscious pursuit of, consistent happiness, which we know is like ridiculous.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
I have the perfect Hannah Arendt quote to match these talks now. She says, "Fearlessness, it is what love seeks," and this fearlessness is the complete calm that isn't shaken by events expected of the future. So that is being able to choose freely and be spontaneous in your choices right now. Yes, I will be here. Yes, I will smile. Yes, I will dare to speak. And because I'm to not be shaken by fear of what might happen or what reactions I might have. And this is the fearlessness and the that is like the loving existence, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah. The one choice. The thing we choose. We choose the loving existence.
True.
Right.
And how accountability and responsibility to have that connection to self is part of love, right? There's this whole, it's quite fascinating, right? Like words like responsibility or accountability or discipline. I think for many people, they evoke some sort of like punitive or problematic sort of thing, but really those things, when they're decoupled from sort of connotation and given more intentional meaning, even if you go into their etymology, right, like discipline, right, like joy, following something that you believe in that resonates, that brings you joy. So I think for when we talk about freedom, like that connection to self and that strong vertical axis, this feels quite non-negotiable to true freedom, right? Going inwards, doing that work of being with the self.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. Beautifully said. Yeah.
So long
And
as the mind believes, so long as the mind believes in the possibility of escape from what is at this moment,
yeah.
there can be no freedom. It's the same thing again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you believe that you can or should or must escape from right now, there is no freedom. Oh, I have another. Where did I hear that?
Ooh.
Somewhere. But someone said freedom
Let me
is
check.
the possibility to have guests. And it's a kind of like when you are, it's this sovereignty kind of, when you are allowed to invite someone in, either literally or metaphorically, you know, that is freedom.
Yeah.
And it's so,
I forgot
that's
where
a
it
beautiful
stems
topic.
from.
We should do 30 episodes on just freedom.
And it's funny, Janis Joplin sings about, in her song, Mr. Bobby McGee, she sings about freedom is just another word of having nothing else to lose. And I think in an abstract way, it means like when you're, what you also say, Rachel, when you're so connected to self, and what you say, Miriam, sorry, about the fearlessness, that in a way that you can be so fulfilled with just existing, that that they cannot take anything away from you. There's nothing to lose when you have your, how do you say, Whitney Houston would say, when you have your dignity, but your dignity, when you have your sense of self, when you're aware of the self with a capital S, they cannot take anything away from you. Everybody can do what they want at any given time, and you will still be you. That you are free and there's nothing to lose. Yes, in a way you can say there's always stuff to lose and there's materialism, but I think that's it. There's just materialism that you can things lose. You can lose your home, but you can never lose yourself. You cannot lose your freedom to think. Also, Hannah Arendt with the trilogy, like the thinking, the not willing, and what are her trilogy was the thinking, the wanting, willing, no, discerning. She has the 3 books about, I have them here, but they're in Dutch, so I would have to check in English. But like, we have the capacity to discern, and discern is not judging. We have a freedom to distinguish. She's very keen on that, actually, because people often say, yeah, but you cannot say that, that's judging. No, I can discern. I have the freedom to discern. I need to discern. I had no point, nowhere going with this, but just generically speaking, the freedom. No, well, actually, that the mind is the mind of your own, and your choices are your own choices as an individual, and no one can take that away from you where you're at. Even if you're imprisoned, it's still you with your own. I mean, Etty Hillesum could probably say a lot about that, right? The war survivor. They cannot take nothing away from you at the end. There's nothing to lose when you know yourself.
Do you want to hear the perfect Toni Morrison quote? It's my last quote. But Rachel, you can go first.
Yeah, Rachel.
Well, I just, I can't help but want to go back to what Miriam had said about escaping. And so there's no freedom if you're escaping to go somewhere. So as you two know, I'm quite keen and fond of bringing the body along in these conversations.
Yes.
And I immediately think of nervous system regulation. And so, yes, polyvagal theory, and I've been really looking at at a polyvagal through a more expanded lens lately. And it's really fascinating, right? And they talk about in polyvagal, it's reduced to the dorsal, the ventral, and the mobilized. And if you expand that out, there's more to kind of parse out and play with and look at there. But if you're, escaping, you're in fight or flight, right? And so this idea that a grounded nervous system, right? And you talk about reason, Miriam, as well, that brain body divide is so pervasive and it shows up in so many places. I feel like it's been this unspoken, unconscious part of the human experience for so long, but really the nervous system is the brain and the brain is the body. And so when we can connect to being aware of our nervous system states, that really helps us to understand, I think, where we are in our relationship to the vertical and horizontal axis as well, because discernment being possible when you're in your body, when you're more grounded, when you're aligned in that vertical axis and you're able to be in relational dialogue and in relational choice, and you can discern. But if you're in this sort of escape, this state of escape from your own body, fight or flight, is that then discernment? Is that then really choice? Is that really autonomy? Like, of course, we're biological creatures. So like, to make this a little more transpersonal, we are supposed to move through these states of mobilization, of fight, of flight, of escape. But if we can be aware of them and use them as a tool and a barometer to understand what that means for our relation to self and other, I think that can be really just an incredibly powerful tool.
Yes. Yeah.
This constant reflection.
Yeah, because actually that's otherwise what you would say. People are stuck in the matrix, or they're stuck in a system, or in a collective thinking, or just following the vortex of I need to be there, I need to, I don't know, but well, and not embodied. They don't have embodied goals. What you talk about, they would just be chasing something supposedly out there. And not be in touch with what feels good to a person. Those are people that, well, that's also what they say, if you choose nothing, you fall for anything. And with this, I would take it to the body, what you say, Rachel, because when you're within yourself, when you know yourself, when you're connected to yourself, you will not go with the masses. You will not follow the herd. You would know how to discern. You would follow what's right for yourself. You would know. And yes, the polyvagal theory is very beautiful. I would like to talk more about that as well. And I want to know what more is on your chart. So maybe we can talk about that in the next episode.
That's good. Yeah. Excellent. Because it's telling me that we need to wrap up.
Switch, huh?
Yeah.
I want to know, Rachel.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if being human and autonomy, like, it's quite, you have to bring the body along.
Yeah.
And like, it's actually like, that's not all of it, but it's a big part of it, perhaps, right? Like, I wonder how many people, for reasons of shame or reasons of just nervous system baseline, or how much technology they consume, or just what happens if we all come into our bodies more and more. And that's quite simple, but sometimes the complex can be distilled down into something that's simple. And being human is part of being human, is having a body.
Yes.
So I just think that's fascinating. Anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's very beautiful. Yeah.
It's it's difficult the first time, but then you learn. It's difficult the first time when you lived in your head for all your life, and then you discover a way into your body. But then it's there. Like, you open this portal and it's available to you. You just need.
You wanted to end this one with a poem, right, Miriam? You had a poem ready before.
I read already from the book.
Oh, the last one. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you had it.
But yes, right. So I have. Oh yeah, that one. The Toni Morrison quote. Yeah, sorry, I didn't.
Yeah. Right. Sorry. Yeah.
She said that the deepest measure of freedom is loving anything and anyone you choose to love. Only that.
Yeah.
Don't need anything else. Just the freedom to love who you want to love. Should we end it there and pick up?
Yes.
Again?